Alrighty, hey football fans, welcome to this edition of NFL Football Talk. I'm your host, Charles E. Smith Jr. in the sweltering heat here in Southern California, where it's, been up over in the 90s, and in this room where I am right now, it must be 90 degrees still, I think, and even though we're at night. But you know what? You don't want to hear me complain. You want to hear about the issues of the day, what happened with your teams, what happened in the games, and everything else. So let's go ahead and get right down into that. So, I don't do the show alone. I work with only the best, as everybody knows. So, let me go ahead and bring him in right now. You follow him on Twitter at Chris L Sports. None other than the one, the only Chris Lardieri.
Charles, thank you so much. I'm as sweltering as you are. It's been triple digits regularly where I live. Thank God for air conditioning and the lack of rolling blackouts. But that said, I was just wondering if anyone has seen Roger Goodell. I was looking on a milk carton to see if maybe his face was there. Nothing on the freeway billboard electrical signs that you see sometimes when there's a missing person. Hoping they find him because he's gone AWOL.
Yeah, that's true. You know, where is the commission? I assumed maybe he was at your house because you have so much juice there. And I didn't mean the kind in your refrigerator. I meant, juice. But nobody's seen him since last week, and I have a feeling that apparently he's been signing off on things for teams, though, when you want to do the right thing. I guess he signs off on it for you so you can do what is considered the right thing right now, which the right thing on Monday was not the right thing on Friday, and the right thing on Friday was not the right thing on Sunday. So you can make sense of this for me, right?
Yeah, who's on first?
Yeah.
That said, I don't know. We've got this faceless commissioner now. Adrian Peterson's reactivated, and he's suspended. Greg Hardy was going to play, then he voluntarily went on the same Adrian Peterson witness protection list, or whatever the league calls it.
Right.
It's all over the place. All I know is I'm not quite sure if this is a deliberate, calculated move by Goodell, or if maybe the owners have told him, lay low, we don't want you out there. You're only going to do further damage. Really don't know. But thinking about this the other day, you look at the mess that happened in the NBA with Donald Sterling. Adam Silver was a brand new commissioner. You got to give him credit. I mean, it took a few days to get their story together, but he was out there facing the media. Lisa Guerrero, she formerly of Monday Night Football fame, asked the first question, but at least he had a press conference and didn't do a sham interview with a hand-picked reporter from CBS. So Roger Goodell could learn a thing or two from the NBA. Never thought I'd say that. Yeah,
that's true. And not only that, but how about them actually picking someone to investigate themselves? I'm going to find out what's going on here, so I'm going to pay somebody to come in here, investigate me, and turn over the findings to me, right? Is that how that works?
I guess. I think that they were called Enron Internal Audit, weren't they? And now they're just masquerade as NFL investigators. And the guy that was handpicked, I mean, I'm not going to bore everyone with the details and the legal ramifications, but done work for the league before.
Right.
I'm sure it'll just be your usual dog and pony show. It's not like they're assigning someone like the scandal at Penn State to really come in independently and kick the tires.
And you know what? I have a feeling, I've got a theory about what's been going on with the NFL. And not only when you look at the whole fiasco with Adrian Peterson, who got deactivated, didn't play this weekend, was supposed to play this coming weekend, but then wasn't. And then you have Greg Hardy, who on Friday they said was going to play, then on Sunday is inactive. I'm not even talking about all the chaos that causes with the fantasy football owners and the degenerate gamblers out there. But I think when you look at this, put it all together, along with all the injuries this weekend, we had Jamal Charles, we had Peanut Tillman, Deshaun Jackson, RG3, Eric Berry, Noshawn Moreno, Mercedes Lewis, all these guys going out, and that's just a partial list with injuries this weekend. Do you think maybe the NFL has had a karmic apocalypse?
I think it's heading that way, and
yeah.
I'm wondering if the karmic tipping point was when Roger Goodell allegedly hit up artists to pay to do the halftime Super Bowl show.
Yeah.
Because that was the last pardon my French, ballsy move that he was trying to pull a shakedown on. And since then, it seems like the wheels have come off. I mean, think about it. Every time I put on sports radio or ESPN or NFL Network, this is all anyone's talking about. Parenting, discipline, spousal abuse, etc. You've heard a little bit about the injuries, but if this were a year ago, it'd be all over the place. We're talking about, is the NFL too violent? There's too many injuries. How are the injuries compare year over year? I mean, you're absolutely right. This is a perfect storm. And what it's going to do is it's going to tick off the gamblers and the fantasy football players. You and I argue are one and the same, and they better watch it. Or perfect example, I have Adrian Peterson on my fantasy football team. And you know what I told one of my coworkers who's also in this league? In a sick way, I wish I had Jamal Charles because at least he got hurt on the field. And a year ago, I probably wouldn't have said that. But this is now. Are you going to have to draft players? Not because, Gronkowski's injury prone. I can't draft him. Adrian Peterson likes using switches on his poor 4-year-old kid. I better not draft him. You're going to have to start doing due diligence with legal matters soon. So, yeah, I agree with you. This is a key turning point for the league, and we'll see if Goodell even keeps his job because that could dictate the future of the league as well.
Yeah, I think so. And, the other problem is I've never seen things just come together like that. And also, by the way, just this afternoon, within the last few hours, Jonathan Dwyer got arrested. He's a running back for the Arizona Cardinals who played for the Steelers last year. And the charge is it's about domestic abuse, again, with Dwyer. But that's just coming in. I'm sure we'll hear all about that tomorrow. But, yeah, he's the latest one to go down. And now, when you look at these commissioners' exceptions that are being handed out now, which were rare, and now those things are being handed out like movie passes, And that was one of the things. Yeah, that's one of the things I'd said was that if they make it easier for the teams to police themselves, as in when you have a problem, you should immediately have some way to deactivate that guy without it taking any type of real toll on the team and not killing your salary cap or anything like that, then maybe the teams would be more willing to police themselves.
Yeah, I agree. And I think what will also come to light is the fact that Adrian Peterson and Greg Hardy are going to get paid to sit on whatever this list is called. I mean, I'm sure the owners aren't going to be too happy about that. But at the same time, they're going to look the other way. If it weren't for this little intervention at 1:45 in the morning Eastern time in Minneapolis, Adrian Peterson would be playing Sunday. So, they've got a little bit of proverbial blood on their hands as well.
Yeah, everybody does. And, I think when it comes to these players, though, the losses of millions of dollars, that means a lot to you and me if we had millions of dollars to lose. But I think a lot of the teams would be willing to take the hit. But it's about what it does to you in the long term, though. So if this guy gets in trouble and it's still affecting your team as far as from a salary cap standpoint for another year or so, then that could be an issue.
Yeah, and that's a drop in the bucket. What's really going to happen, and what the most interesting part will be, are the advertisers, because Radisson's already pulled the plug. Anheuser-Busch wrote a letter, which I'm still trying to figure out if they're posturing or if they're really thinking of pulling the plug. I highly doubt it. Too much money there, too much beer to sell at games, but that's another tangent for another time. Let's see who follows suit, because when anyone does anything controversial, the first ones to go are the advertisers. I know they're pulling Peterson jerseys off the shelves.
Yeah.
The Twin Cities, and Nike's pulling the plug. So let's see. I mean, when you've got a defensive player like Greg Hardy doing what he does, while not as high profile, an excellent player, but he's no AP. He's not the face of a franchise. Right. What will happen in Charlotte? Will they look the other way? Look at Ray McDonald. You got the Lieutenant Governor of California weighing in. So, yeah, this has just turned into one big football-like brush fire that just keeps spreading and popping up throughout the country.
And you know what? I think what needs to happen, though, is to change the culture, not just with the players, but if you look at what the owners and what they can do as far as fixing their teams, doing the right things, I think once you have a few high-profile guys released, like when the Vikings, if they release Adrian Peterson and realize the sun is still going to come up in the morning, and please don't start singing, but they still realize the sun is going to come up in the morning and it's going to be okay, other teams will realize that. Yes, this guy is a star, but can we live without him? Absolutely we can. And will the fans come back? And maybe they might be upset a little bit over the lack of production or whatever, But when the fans realize you're actually doing the right thing overall from a humanity standpoint, I think they'll be willing to forgive when that happens. You know, you cut a guy who's a great running back, but abused his kid. Okay, you know, you got to get priorities straight there.
Yeah, absolutely, and it brings out a morality question, ethics, etc. And here we were a week ago thinking, wow, the Ravens finally got it right. They released Ray Rice. What a gutsy move. And now that just pales into comparison with what we've seen happen since. I'm just dumbfounded. It's like I sit there every day, and when my phone goes off, I'm just waiting for the next NFL app alert or ESPN, or I mean, it's even hitting CNN now. So, yeah, it's I think we'll look back on this and say, wow, at the time we've never seen anything like this.
Yep.
Could be the Roman Empire crumbling.
I think so. And let's just we'll just put a capper on it here. Remember, Anheuser-Busch, they pump $1.2 billion into the league every year. So let me put that into perspective for everyone out there. If I gave you $1 billion that was not going to gain any interest, and I told you to spend it all, if you spent $20,000 every day, you would have to spend $20,000 a day for 100 years to get rid of $1 billion. So that's what type of money we're talking about.
Yeah, that's a lot of cars. A lot of cars, Charles. A lot of Budweiser too, I guess, right?
Yep, exactly. Just shows you how much beer drinking is going on out there. So, anyways, let's go ahead and talk about, before we get into the picks of the week, the games the last week. And that was the big one, of course, was the San Diego Chargers beating the defending Super Bowl champion Seahawks. And something I thought got overblown was they're talking about Richard Sherman, and did Richard Sherman get exposed, and all this kind of what I call nonsense. And, you know, just Sherman said afterwards, you know, they completed 3 passes on my side and no big gains. So I think 2 things here. One, did he get exposed? The answer is no. And Phillip Rivers, I don't think, was trying to talk trash. But on the other side, Phillip Rivers can say whatever he wants about Richard Sherman because they play in opposite conferences. It's not going to come back to bite him in the butt unless they meet in the Super Bowl.
Absolutely, and if anyone was talking crap, it was Keenan Allen. So for
right.
the media to pin it on Rivers was mind-boggling. But why this is even a story, I don't know. You know, Richard Sherman loves to talk. He loves to tweet. He loves poking Patrick Peterson with his social media stick, per se. And what does he expect? If a team is going to light him up this year, of course they're going to do that. They're the best team. They're the defending Super Bowl champs. He speaks the loudest. He screams at Aaron Andrews, and that's what you get. At the same time, I think it's a function of Green Bay just blatantly avoided him like he was Deion Sanders, that it was almost like people were shocked that anyone even threw it in, period. So, I guess when you put someone on a pedestal that high one week and the next week they give up 3 completions, the end of the world must be near. But yeah, it's yet another. You would think with all the stories and the beating of wives and children and significant others that this is still a story is amazing to me.
Yeah, and then let's talk about the other thing where I think Jay Gruden, if we look at the Redskins and what happened there, RG3 getting injured yet again. And now Kirk Cousins is going to take over, and hey, I know they were playing the Jacksonville Jaguars, but did you see how smoothly that offense ran once Cousins got into the game?
Sure did, and you know what? It did last year too when Griffin was hurt, and it did the year before when Griffin was hurt.
Right.
And that's why Joe Theismann, for all his obnoxiousness and outspokenness, the guy's got a point. He said all along that Cousins is the guy. So let's see. I mean, who knows? You look at the NFC East. Yeah, I know the Eagles are 2-0. They had a couple come from behind wins. Some might say got lucky against the Colts, but are the Redskins a different team with Cousins, especially with a new coach? Could they be contending again?
Right.
It's going to be very interesting, and like they say, they're paying all this money, but if Cousins takes his team to the playoffs, or at least turns them around, will RG3 even be in Washington next year?
Well, I'm looking at honestly, I think if the Redskins can go 9-7, maybe 10-6. I don't think RG3 gets his job back, and I think really what I would do at this point, Daniel Snyder, and I know he wouldn't listen to me because he doesn't listen to anybody, but you could trade RG3 and basically plug all the other holes you have on the team, leave Cousins as your QB. If Cousins is the real deal like I think he is, and when I say the real deal, I mean as good as Brad Johnson. That's my dividing line there, is Brad Johnson. So if Cousins can operate that efficiently, I'd say go ahead with Cousins, because RG3, not only being erratic, but you know he's going to come back, and he has to be a little bit slower than he was before the first couple of injuries he had. And he's not learning to pass from the pocket that well. His progression, to me, is not going that well as far as Robert Griffin III.
Yeah, like we said last week, he's become a dump-off, dink-and-dunk, screen-pass quarterback. So it's very interesting to see the Redskins' offense, albeit against the, let's just say, pathetic Jaguars secondary, to be kind. But at the same time, who's to say RG3 would have done that? I think it's going to be very interesting. At the time, everyone ridiculed Shanahan for picking Cousins so high up when they literally had a franchise quarterback. Right. But hindsight being 20/20, maybe he knew something.
Yep, very well could be. And then let's talk about another team. Surprisingly 0-2. New Orleans Saints, and then we saw, now obviously there are cameras everywhere, and this thing's probably happened before, we didn't see it, but Sean Payton and Rob Ryan getting into it on the sidelines there after they gave up, that Rob Ryan defense giving up yet another late completion and losing the game.
Yeah, bringing back great memories of the old Houston Oilers sideline with Buddy Ryan and Kevin Gilbride. I mean, watching that game, I really couldn't believe they blew it. Not quite sure what schemes Ryan was calling for there, but to have, and look, the Browns didn't have a great receiving core coming in. They really missed Josh Gordon, but right. They were down to third and fourth stringers, moving the ball for a game-winning drive on a Saints defense that looked like they weren't even there. And, someone's going to have to take the blame at some point, and we all know Sean Payton's on the defensive coach. He's the offensive version of Rex Ryan. He lets his guy handle the defense, and just really a bad loss. Because let's look at it. They're 0-2 now. Yeah, they get the Vikings this weekend without Adrian Peterson, but right. Something goes awry. They're 0-3, and the stat is not a lot of 0-2 teams make it to the Super Bowl or even to the playoffs. So maybe time to hit the panic button in New Orleans, because their defense has gotten torched 2 weeks in a row. Yep,
that's true, and both you and I had them as one of our two teams to go to the Super Bowl from the NFC, but we won't talk about that. That's
no, because
that
on
later on the season.
Yeah, one of my AFC teams on that side is also 0-2, so clearly we're off to a rousing start.
Well, let's talk about the Cleveland Browns, though. I mean, Brian Hoyer at quarterback. So what would it take? You want to see a little bit more before you put the Cleveland Browns in they're actually for real category, because they had the big comeback against the Steelers, even though they came up short. And now, taking down the Saints the way that they did, and I always look at those situations, making a completion in a situation like that with the game on the line, that's really where you show, where a team is and, what they do in the clutch moments.
Absolutely, and I think the best thing out of all this is we don't have to hear all the Johnny Manziel talk. Hoyer's not looking over his shoulder. Let's face it, unless he gets injured, I don't think we're going to hear much from Manziel this season. It's reminding me of the movie Draft Day with Kevin Costner, in a way, life imitating art. But yeah, I was happy for him. I mean, the guy basically was doing well last year, got hurt, and then he comes back to Johnny Football and all his hype, and finally he's won the job, and he's played 2 very nice games. And more of a big picture, how about 3 former Michigan State Spartans quarterbacking teams this week to victory? You've got Cousins, you've got Drew Stanton filling in for Carson Palmer in Arizona, and Hoyer. So who knew they were such a quarterback academy there in East Lansing?
Yeah, that's true, and that's the other thing is Drew Stanton filling in, and we don't know how long Carson Palmer is going to be out because he has a nerve issue in that throwing shoulder. So, it's one of those, could be a day, could be a week, could be 2 months. He could be done for his career. We don't know.
Yeah, really, it'd be too bad if he was.
Yeah.
But, given you look at someone like David Wilson, those neck and even nerve injuries are they're a touchy subject, no pun intended. So Hopefully it gets better. But looks, Stan had a decent game, but
Yeah.
I think the thing he's got going for him is he's got Bruce Arians as his coach. Guy really turns quarterbacks around.
Yep, absolutely. And you know what? Let's talk about another 0-2 team, though they haven't really looked bad, and they did lose to two good teams. But Indianapolis Colts, now 0-2. The Eagles with the big comeback win there, aided a little bit by, I think, a few bad calls from the officials. I don't like to say that. No conspiracy involved. They just blew a couple of calls there. But what about the Colts?
Yeah, that was one of the teams I thought could be contenders, especially coming out of what we thought was a weak AFC South. I know it's 2 games in. You're playing the defending AFC champs and the defending NFC East champs, but the offense doesn't look right. They look like they're sputtering.
Right.
Pep Hamilton's trying this ball control approach. That's all well and good if Trent Richardson's not your running back. And I know now Ahmad Bradshaw looks like he's going to get more carries. He played well Monday night, but same thing with him. Remembering him from his Giants days, the guy runs hard, but he also gets hurt a lot. So
Yeah.
I think they've got to have some sort of a change in strategy there. You look at what the Colts did against the Chiefs in the wild card game last year. Well, when you fall down behind early, you're not going to play ball control. And Andrew Luck lit up that Kansas City secondary. So
Exactly.
last year was Todd Haley in Pittsburgh. I think Hamilton's going to be the first coordinator on the hot seat here in 2014.
All right, and then, just a little bit of props before we do the picks here, but, you got to like the Eagles. And what I liked about the Eagles is not just the poise of Nick Foles, but, they got the law firm of Foles and Sproles there in Philadelphia. And I think it's working out well because also Darren Sproles was doing some good running, and he had one run that was ridiculous. The way he just weaved his way through and set up all his blocks, that was incredible.
He's a great little player. I mean, at the time, I thought the Chargers never should have gotten rid of him, and I was proven right there. In a weird way, I think he's a great replacement for Deshaun Jackson. Now, he's not a receiver, but he's one of those guys that's a game changer. And if you get the ball in his hands out in the flat or on a run or however you use him as even a decoy, you always have to account for him, and he can always break the game open. If you don't believe me, look at what he did last year against the Eagles. He had in playoffs had a key kick return. But you look at him now, the Eagles said, hey, we need a guy like this. We're going to get rid of Jackson. Great signing.
Yep.
I think Foles doesn't have a lot of deep threats downfield, so we're only 2 games in, but I've always liked Sproles. Guy's got a big heart, and it's kind of like a Percy, albeit an older version of Percy Harvin. You can put him in the backfield, you could split him out, and watch out, lights out. If he gets the ball, he's got that home run potential.
That's right, and you know what? And we didn't even talk about Shady McCoy, and with that threat in the backfield too. So I think the Eagles are going to do just fine. So shall we go ahead and get into the pick segment?
Yeah, before we do, Shady McCoy, the shady tipper.
Oh, yeah, that's a whole show on that story too.
He should be thankful the news broke this week when all hell broke loose, because that kind of got swept under the carpet.
Yep, as did the commissioner, who is missing in action. So much going on that everybody forgot. Oh, yeah, that's right, Goodell is still in hot water. Okay,
amazing.
So picks of the week. Last week I went 2-4. You went 3-3, as you do every week. They call Mr. Lardieri the Dallas Cowboys of the picks segment here, which I like your consistency. But we're both 6-6 overall on the year, so hey, it's all good.
We're consistently inconsistent.
Okay, so let's get right down to it. The Baltimore Ravens at Cleveland to play the Browns. The Browns playing some good ball. The Ravens, now I think that the whole, the Ray Rice situation is done. They can go ahead and move on with whatever they're going to do. But I do think the Ravens, I think it's going to be a really good game. Not just because of the division rivalry, but because the Ravens are finding themselves. The Browns playing really good football. And I'll tell you something. I like the Browns in this game. I think they're going to prove they're for real this weekend. I like the Browns at home to take down the Ravens.
All right, I'm going to disagree with you. I think it'll be an excellent game, a close game. Cleveland seems to play Baltimore tough, especially at home. But that said, Baltimore's coming off a nice win on a short week against their arch rival Steelers. I think those extra few days off will help. I think with all the Ray Rice stuff going over, this team looks like it's playing well. The defense is very impressive against the Steelers. And at the end of the day, I think I'd take the Baltimore defense over the New Orleans defense. I don't see them blowing any late leads in Cleveland. I'm going Ravens.
All right, we shall see. And then, Mr. Lardy, if you would, go ahead and break down Texans at the Giants.
Game 2, yes, the undefeated Houston Texans, who I know they've only played the Redskins and Raiders, but you've got to play them every week, and they're 2-0. Going to New York, well, technically New Jersey, the Meadowlands, I should know better, to play the 0-2 Giants. Giant safety Antrell Roll has gone on record saying this is a must-win game. The Giants showed some improvement on offense against the Cardinals until the turnovers happened, and unbelievable amount of drops. I can feel it now. I think the Giants fans are about to turn on Victor Cruz. The guy complains for the ball, drops a ton of balls.
He dropped 3.
Leading the league in drops so far, and only 2 weeks in. You look at some of their other players, dropping balls left and right. Rashard Jennings catching past the flat, basically tripping over himself and fumbling. You're not going to win many games that way. I'm picking Houston. I really like the way the defense is playing. J.J. Watt clearly has not let the money go to his head. Ryan Fitzpatrick's doing just enough. He's basically doing what Eli should be doing. He's distributing the ball, not turning it over, managing the game, letting Arian Foster eat the clock up. And I think they send the Giants sputtering again. I like the way Houston's playing. I'm not saying they're going to win the AFC South, but they're clearly not going to be a pushover.
Yeah, okay, here's the reason why I'm conflicted, because I think I saw the same things you did with the Giants game this past weekend. And it wasn't about them not being comfortable in the offense. It was not a question of game plan. It was about the execution. So without the drop passes and things, I think the Giants would be okay, and they'd probably be 1-1 right now. I think with them learning that offense a little bit more, I'm going to go with this. I'm going to go with the Giants here to clean up those areas, to take care of the drops and all those types of things. And I go with the Giants in an ugly game, but I think the Giants are going to win this. This is the get-right game, as the fellas say in the NFL.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, who would have thought here in mid-September we've got ourselves a make-or-break game for the Giants? But, yeah, it clearly is.
Okay, and then the Redskins, who we talked about, Kirk Cousins, he'll be running that offense, which ran like a well-oiled machine against the Jaguars. At the Eagles, playing well. I like Kirk Cousins, but I think with the Eagles, I like the amount of threats they have, though, with with Jeremy Maclin there, with Shady McCoy, as we talked about, with Darren Sproles. I don't think the Redskins have the defense to hold down the Eagles the way they're going to need to do it. So I think Cousins is going to play well. I think the Redskins' offense is going to play well, but I think it's going to be lost by the defense here, because I don't think they can stop the Eagles' offense. I'm going with Philadelphia here.
Yeah, I'm going to have to agree with you. I would pick Washington, a.k.a. the Redskins. I know you're not supposed to say that here in a public forum. But I think ultimately, I think it will be a good game. It will be a close game. What worries me, if Deshaun Jackson does play, I think he's banged up, and that's what I think could be the difference, tilting towards the Redskins. But given that factor and still no clarity on the injury report, heck, we don't get clarity until game time. Look at the Bears. They said all the receivers were hurt and they played. So I'm going to agree with you, go with the Eagles. I think they've got momentum on their side, and they know the first big division game, they want to put a contender to rest.
Yep, and then you can go ahead and break down the next one here. Kansas City Chiefs sans Jamal Charles against the Miami Dolphins, who are sans Noshawn Moreno.
Yeah, two teams that are really banged up, missing their starting running backs, and the Chiefs had their shots against the Broncos late and couldn't put it away. Niall Davis, not spelled N-I-L-E, so I'll tell you on that, did a nice job filling in for Charles. I think I think the Chiefs are in good hands with that respect. What worries me is the man calling the signals, Alex Smith. With the game on the line, he couldn't make the plays in Denver. There was another play where DeMarcus Ware sacked him, They call an incomplete pass. It could have easily been a fumble. He's got a propensity to turn the ball over. Dolphins got a spanking in Buffalo, but let's face it, Buffalo had a lot of momentum on their side. Sammy Watkins had a great game. The crowd was in a frenzy. The new owners keeping the team in Buffalo. Jim Kelly's cancer-free. I'll give the Dolphins a mulligan. I guess it'll be the Lamar Thomas show, right? And ultimately, I think Ryan Tannehill is going to have to win this game for the Dolphins, and I think he will. I'm going Dolphins.
All right, and you know me trying to be as unbiased as I can because the Dolphins are my squad, as everybody knows, but I think, too, that's the whole thing about it. I think that Tannehill will be able to execute a little better than Alex Smith. And also remember, Eric Berry is going to he's probably out as well with an ankle sprain as well, that is safety for the Kansas City Chiefs. So I think they're a little bit banged up there, and plus they're going to be getting into desperation mode here because they can't really beat anybody. Then you start thinking about how they finished up last year. You know, they won the first 9 games of the season, but they were only 5-7 in the last 7 games. Well, I'm sorry, 2-5 in the last 7 games there of the season. So I think there's some doubt creeping in there in Kansas City as well. I'm going Dolphins.
All right.
Okay, and then go ahead and take us through the big one here. The Super Bowl rematch, the Denver Broncos going in to face the 12th man in Seattle.
You know, it is the game of the week, but let's face it, watching what happened with the Super Bowl last year, it also has the potential to be a dud. The Broncos have been a first-half team this season, great in the first half, nearly blowing leads, and the offense goes into, I don't know, halcyon comatose state, SAT words. And I think had the Seahawks not lost to the Chargers, I could easily see Denver going in there saying, hey, we got our butts kicked, we got something to prove, but Seattle's going to be good and ticked off. Their crowd's really going to be fired up, and I think Mr. Sherman's going to have an even bigger chip on his shoulder. I think it's hard to pick against Seattle at home, and I'm going with the Seahawks.
Yeah, and you know what? I'll just say this. You compound it with the, you take the Super Bowl, and then you take the fact that they lost in San Diego last week, and for all the reasons you just said, I got Seattle in this game. I just can't see. Maybe if this game was in Denver, I might lean towards the Broncos being able to get a little bit of revenge, but no, this game is in Seattle. I got the Seahawks all the way on this one.
Yeah, and if Percy Harvin does score a touchdown, I think it'll be an actual touchdown, not one where he steps out of bounds.
Yes. It was reviewed in New York, and they said it was a good touchdown, so your eyes must be getting bad there, Mr. Lardieri.
I do have bad eyes, but even I could see that when someone's foot steps on the line. That said, I think that guy or girl in New York review is the same one who got the Ray Rice tape but never really got it.
All right, and then the last game here, Pittsburgh Steelers. Steelers 1-1 going into Carolina to face the Panthers, who Greg Hardy will not be playing because he got one of those commissioners' hall pass type things, so he doesn't have to play. So Steelers and the Panthers. I like the Steelers kind of getting right here. I like to use that term. And the Panthers, I think it's going to be a good game. This is going to be a really good game because I like the way Cam Newton has progressed as a quarterback. But chips are down. I like the Steelers to go in there and take care of business. This is going to be a good, tough, hard-nosed, old-school type football game because I love Luke Kuechly as a linebacker as well. So this is going to be a good game. Tough game to win, but Big Ben's been in these situations before. Squeaking it out, I got the Pittsburgh Steelers.
I'm going to have to agree with you in the sense that I think it'll be an old-school smash-mouth, close football game, one of those 17-16 type games, but I think the Panthers prevail. Even without Hardy, that defense is playing phenomenal. All you heard in week 1 was how great Calvin Johnson was, and he didn't. But did he get the looks last week down in Charlotte? Absolutely not. And I think the way the Ravens defended the Steelers, I think that the Panthers are an even better defense. I think they'll be stifling. They're not going to be able to get the run going. They defend the pass well. And on the offensive side, I think Cam Newton worked out his kinks, his sore ribs and whatnot. And I really like the way Kelvin Benjamin's playing.
Yeah.
He could be one of the rookies to watch out for, along with Sammy Watkins in Buffalo. So I'm going Panthers in a close one. I think they're starting to see this with the Saints sputtering. This could be their division to win again.
Yep, absolutely. All right, so that takes care of all the games of the week here. So, before we go ahead and check out here, Mr. Lardieri, anything you'd like to say to the legions of fan here on this weekend that was the karmic apocalypse of the NFL?
Yes, I would. We kind of hit on this earlier. I think if the NFL were to face this tipping point and potentially a downfall, you have to affect the gambling and fantasy football crowd. Let's see what happens. We have another week of, never mind the arrests and the controversy, but another week of injuries. You're going to start seeing some lost interest. That said, people are going to continue to watch football. I think what I found in speaking with a lot of people this week that are diehard football fans, we've hit on this. The product's been watered down. You can't defend like you used to.
Right.
But bigger picture, I think, I've got 2 kids and explain to them what's going on. There's just a lot of bad dudes in the league. I'm not saying everyone. All it takes is a few bad apples to spoil the bunch. But explain to my kids what Ray Rice did or Adrian Peterson did. Mm-hmm. And you start to say, I watch football on Sundays. It's my day off. I don't work. It's time to relax. It's mental candy for my brain, let's say. And at some point, you're like, why am I watching this? These guys make tons of money. They don't care. They think they're above the law. And I think that's what the overarching theme of what's going on right now. And if you get people who are like, football, I could take it or leave it, right, that's where you're going to have problems. That's where you're going to have the baseball effect. I've talked to a lot of people who also tell me, I've kind of steered away from the NFL. I like college. Not a lot of those guys make pros to this. They're hungry. They play it for the love of the game. It's a little more equal. You've got a team like Auburn who should have never beaten Alabama last year on a fluke play. That's what makes college great. I'm starting to hear some of that too. And let's face it, no one talks about it, but college football ratings have been great. So I think this will be an interesting week in the kind of the crystal ball of the future of the NFL.
Yep, that's true. And I think when we look at one of the problems the NFL may have, and just if you look at the culture that's bred, I think that you hit on it with college football. If they cleaned up things a little better at that level, and so guys like Jameis Winston, who are just, idiots repeatedly, just weren't getting drafted, I think that'll make it, that'll help to change the culture as well. If these big universities stop letting 20-year-old kids hold them hostage.
Yeah, absolutely. And the first person I remember where it was kind of like that was Randy Moss. Notre Dame would have never kicked Randy Moss out back in the 70s or 80s, but he was just such a knucklehead. Great a talent as he was, they had to let him go. And you know what Winston doesn't even realize, or even a Manziel when he was at A&M? You do this stuff, and there are teams in this league that don't want you, and word spreads. And you can take all the Wonderlic tests you want, but if you act like a knucklehead, you're basically, it's the equivalent of someone who keeps blowing out their knee. Nope, I'm not going to take a high pick on him. Nope, I'm not going to pay him this money.
Right.
He's digging his own grave. And I think you're going to see more and more scrutiny like that when you look forward to next year's combine and draft.
Yep, exactly, and especially with the new culture that is no doubt coming in the NFL. And, well, let's not spend a half an hour on Jameis Winston and college football. Let's go ahead and check out here. So, everybody, thanks for watching. We'll do it again next week. We love doing the show here for you. So remember, I'm Charles E. Smith Jr. Follow me on Twitter at @TheInsideSports. Follow Chris on Twitter at Chris L. Sports. So thank you for watching. This has been NFL Football Talk and Inside Sports Production, and we'll see everybody next week.